him to fight anywhere. When we return, we'll have more on the relationship between Howard Cosell and Muhammad Ali. In the year following Muhammad Ali's return from exile, one battle was won, another lost, and his ultimate goal to regain the title remained unfulfilled. Through Ali's trials and triumphs, Howard Cosell was his staunchest supporter, but also his harshest critic, always there on Wide World of Sports to remind the champ, or ex-champ, that his waist was too big, his feet were too slow, or his punches too weak. That candor forged the bond for an enduring and endearing relationship. Thank you for joining us. I'm Chris Fowler for Classic Wide World of Sports.
Our return to This Week
in 1942, that Executive Order 9066 authorized the establishment of internment camps to imprison Japanese Americans suspected of disloyalty to the U.S. Many Japanese American men became soldiers and proved their patriotism on the battlefield during this time. We're about to hear from one of these men who became part of one of the most decorated military units in U.S. history.
They had to go out and go for broke. They were courageous fighters. They had two battles to fight. One against the enemy and the other against racial prejudice.
During the Second World War, Joe Ichiyuji belonged to a singular corps of soldiers. While the men of the 442nd were fighting for their country was incarcerating many of their families back home. From 1942 to 44, roughly 120,000 U.S. residents of Japanese descent were imprisoned in 10 camps across the country. Their crime was their heritage, their judge and jury, a nation gripped by war hysteria.
When Pearl Harbor happened, the sentiment of the people of the United States turned against the Japanese Americans because they looked like the enemy.
February 19, 1942. Executive Order 9066 authorizes the establishment of internment camps.
This was done without any hearing or due process of law. There was no evidence of sabotage, but yet they moved ahead.
Joe Ichiyuji and his family are victims of the mass expulsion. Keeping only what they can carry, the Japanese American community is crowded into barracks, often 2 or more families to a unit.
Many people were in despair after being uprooted from their homes and friends and placed in the middle of the desert, surrounded by barbed wire fence and guarded by armed soldiers.
And yet, despite it all, Ichiyuji arrives at a surprising decision.
I felt that the only way to get my folks and friends out of the camp was to show that we were royal Americans and willing to fight for this country. And that's why I volunteered.
The Nisei 442nd was a predominantly Japanese-American regiment that demonstrated uncommon valor. One of its units suffered the highest casualty rate in U.S. Army history. But perhaps its most remarkable feat came in a stroke of irony. Ichiyuji's battalion participated in the liberation of Dachau.
I could not compare what I saw with what we went through in American camps. But the reason in each case was the same. It was because of racial prejudice.
The 442nd left no question of Japanese Americans' loyalty. Nisei soldiers garnered over 18,000 awards, including Purple Hearts for more than half of them, and 21 Congressional Medals of Honor.
We were the most decorated unit for its size and length of service in the history of the United States.
America's suspicions against their families back home lifted. On December 17, 1944, after nearly 3 years in captivity, the government announced their release.
Of civilians.
Justice would come decades later.
It's only fair that our country provide apologies and reparations to those innocent Japanese Americans who suffered as a result of their internment.
On August 10th, 1988, the government offers an official apology and $20,000 to each Japanese American who had been interned. Joe Ichiyuji gives the money to his grandchildren.
So they could use it for the college funds. And I just want them to remember that this money did not come easily.
I feel that this is a great country that would do such a thing.
This is a great country that acknowledges its mistake. And I'm sure that people will see that it will never happen.